Good afternoon, everybody. So this is Dr. Surge, and today let's talk about one of the most uh, used concept in nutrition, which is the connection between the consumptions of animal fats and heart disease. I mean, we've been told for 40, 50 years that if you eat bacon, butter, eggs, and red meat, and all those different sources of animal fats, you will end up with heart disease, a heart attack, and so on. This is one of the biggest myths, like I said. I wrote a book actually on this concept. I reviewed more than 1,600 articles on this topic. And the conclusion is pretty obvious, actually. But that's what they say. So if you repeat a lie over and over and over, it becomes a truth. So people believe that's the case. And one sub myth of this big myth is that saturated fat can lead to insulin resistance and part of diabetes. Again, there's not much science behind that. There's an article that just published a few weeks ago on this specific topic, and they wanted to look at if people eat animal fats, they will have insulin resistance, sugar issues, diabetes, and so on. And we can see the article is the effects of the low carbohydrate on insulin resistance, and we randomized clinical feeding trial. So this is a clinical trial, so it's really fascinating to look at that. So meaning they feed people different diets, and they look at the blood level of different markers and so on. So this is the gold standard in science, is to actually experiment on human beings different diets. And this is one of those, actually. It was really fascinating to look at the conclusion of this study, as we can see here. So a low carbohydrate diet, high in saturated fat, improve insulin resistant. Okay. Lipoprotein A without the adverse effect of LDL, cholesterol. So carbohydrate restriction might lower cardiovascular risk independently of body weight, a possibility that Roman studies and major multi-center trials powered on a hard outcome. At the end of the day, so this study shows that if you do eat like a keto diet or high-fat diet, you do not have a higher risk of having insulin resistance, heart disease, cardiovascular issues like stroke, heart attack, and diabetes. This is a myth. This is another study that support that. There's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of studies supporting that. And if you look at what we've been eating as a race, as a human race for the last thousands of years, so primarily our diet was consisted of animals, protein, animal fat, so animal sources. So it's really ludicrous to believe that if you consume those micronutrients, the healthy animal fats and proteins, that you have a higher risk of cancer, heart disease, diabetes, obesity, and so on, when in the past there was no such a thing. So what is causing insulin resistance? So this is a really big question, and there's a lot of research done on that. We don't really know all the answers of that question, but we can tell that food is part of it, specifically oxidized omega-6 or bad omega-6 and trans fats. This is what I see clinically in many, many cases of insulin resistance, that they cause the body not responding to insulin. So insulin resistance at the end of the day is when your body makes insulin, but the cells or the cell receptors do not respond anymore to the insulin. So the glucose, the sugar stays high into your bloodstream. And when you check your marker for diabetes, it's high because the glucose is not getting inside the cells. So the body is resistant to insulin. So to offset that, the body would make more insulin in order to get this glucose into the cells. And over time, you could actually end up with type 2 and type 1 diabetes. So trans fat and oxidized rancid omega-6 get into the cell membranes, which impact the receptors of insulin into the cell membranes, which can cause insulin resistance. So that's one mechanism. Your liver may be involved in that. Toxicity could be part of that as well. I see that fairly regularly when we do a good detox or a good cleanse. We remove all the junk, the toxins, and then the insulin resistance improves and goes away. So there's evidence to support that, like mercury, lead, arsenic can actually oxidize the cell membrane and can cause dysfunction of the insulin receptors into the cells, causing insulin resistance. There's many factors involved in that. We don't really fully understand everything, but we know that diet is part of it. Toxin is part of it. So when you change your diet, go at the detox, that helps a lot. There's maybe deficiencies going on as well. Like chromium is really well known to be part of this sugar metabolic issue, and so on. So at the end of the day, don't be nervous to eat animal fats because it's not the cause of insulin resistance. And there's quite a bit of science supporting that. Thank you guys for watching, and God bless you all.